Hi! For this week's video I thought I would just do like a little get to know me video. Also I was intrigued by what questions you had for me. Let's start with an easy one. What's your ethnicity background? Do you feel like you ignore it or try to embrace it? I was born in London, grew up in London, but I'm half white. My dad's side of the family are all English and my mum's side of the family are Bengali. My mum was born in London, so she's first generation, but her parents were both born in Bangladesh, so she had a very Bengali upbringing, whereas I kind of didn't because I grew up in a mixed household and my mum never spoke Bengali around me and my sister because like she didn't speak it to my dad, so we didn't learn any, which is kind of a shame I think, because I would have liked to have had a second language growing up. The only thing ironically I can say is I'm a Bangla, which means I speak Bengali, which I cannot. I embrace it. I feel like also though a lot of my upbringing in terms of culture was intertwined Bangladeshi culture and religious culture. So like when I think of my like cultural upbringing, a lot of it is rooted in doing Islamic and Muslim things like going to the mosque and Eid and things like that, rather than Bengali. Like the Bengali, I've only been to Bangladesh once. I was exposed to it in the way of food. My grandparents cooking amazing food for me, and also outfits sometimes, but we would pretty much only wear them on Eid. They would come back from Bangladesh and bring us like traditional shalwar kameezes. But other than that, the rest of my kind of cultural upbringing from that side of the family is mostly Islamic, which I have moved away from. What career did you have in mind when going into uni? Not a content creator, I suppose. No, I kind of fell into being a full-time content creator. I went to uni. My mum always told me, do what you love, study something you love, and the money will follow. So I decided to study English literature, well, classics and English lit, so a joint honours degree, because I liked both those subjects. And I had a mindset of wanting to go into publishing, but then I did a module on making career in publishing, and I kind of learnt how little you get paid after working for so long, and I just thought, actually, I know it isn't all about the money, however, I don't want to be capped at a certain amount, because also at the time when I was at uni I was modelling, so I was fairly used to making like a very good amount of money, especially for being a student. Like it was amazing part-time jobs. I would basically be earning less money from publishing than I would be modelling. So then I decided I didn't want to do that. While I was modelling I thought, okay, I'm just going to keep doing this, and my Instagram had kind of naturally was growing. I was getting like free stuff, I suppose. I wasn't doing like paid ads. And then obviously when I started dating Casper, my followers I just like grew for obvious reasons. After my followers had stagnated for a while from starting to date Casper, I thought, okay, how can I use my kind of platform in a way that I hope benefits others? And so I started the kind of body image sort of things, and then my followers increased. And I like to think that I got those followers on my own, not just like from Casper. Because I think there was also like a guilt thing of embracing being a content creator, because I didn't want it to look like I had just started dating Casper to get followers and then make a job out of it. Like I didn't want it to look like I was using him for followers or anything. So it kind of took like a while for me to even start posting like an influencer, I suppose. And it was only when I kind of got into my own groove of the kind of content that I wanted to post that I started doing it. And I also waited until after I'd finished uni, because even like YouTube, I mean, now me and Casper have been together for like nearly 4 years, but I wanted to start YouTube like maybe a year ago, but I was just so worried what people would think of me, like, oh, if she's dating YouTuber now she's starting a YouTube channel, like what a coincidence. Because like actually while I was at uni I was very aware that a lot of people thought that I was with Casper to get followers. Like that was a belief that a lot of people had, because I was told by my multiple people. One of my supposed best friends literally told me that that was what he thought, which is horrible. My ex-boyfriend told me that was what he thought, and apparently all his friends thought it. And I like to think, you know, I've proved them all wrong now. We've been together for nearly 4 years, like can't just fake being in love with someone. But yeah, I was very conscious of that. So now I started a YouTube channel and it's for me, because I want to do it. And yeah, I kind of fell into it and I like doing it, basically. And I started Bambi Collective. And yeah, so my full-time job is kind of doing that. Instagram and now YouTube. There's so many questions on here about me being an atheist. Questions like what led you to become an atheist, how did your family take it, etc. So what led me to become an atheist was I sort of, growing up, always never really was on board with the whole God thing. I thought, like, because all the praying 5 times a day and everything, from a very young age, I just thought, wow, like, I didn't ask to be born. Why do I have to pray 5 times a day to this God who, like, there's so much suffering in the world, and yet you put me here and I have to thank you for it 5 times a day? Like, that just never really sat right for me. And I kind of just thought, well, if God does exist, he or she or they are, like, quite evil, because, like I said, there's so much natural suffering, and that's one thing I never understand, the reasoning behind, like, natural disasters. Like, what do you mean because of science? Like, no, if this God can do anything, he could have created a world that was perfect and had no natural disasters and all these diseases and things. Anyway, so that just never sat right with me. And then also, like, having to go to the mosque every week, I just hated it. I hated Arabic school. I hated the segregation. I never understood the separating men from women. I didn't like that you had to cover up, because mum never asked me to wear a headscarf or anything growing up, so I hated wearing it when I had to go to the mosque. I thought, well, how is my hair going to turn a man on? Can't he control himself? Like, why do I have to cover myself up? Why is my body so sexual that I have to cover myself up in order so these men can't, like, so this, like, why can't they just restrain themselves? Like, why don't we teach men not to sexualize women? Why are our bodies inherently sexual? Anyway, all of this. And I'm sure, like, lots of people, Muslims watching, like, sorry if you feel, like, offended by that or anything. I think that Islam in itself is a very beautiful religion. I think that it's got peace at its core, but those are just the things that I could never get on board with. Whenever I post about this on Instagram, I always get people DMing me saying, you don't understand it and you haven't read it right and all this. However, and, like, oh, it's for your own protection and all your own good and things, but just please respect that I have grown up with Islam. I know a lot about the religion. I've read the Quran in translation. Like, these are my views. I don't think it makes any sense fundamentally that a God exists. People that believe in God will say, well, how can the Big Bang have happened? Who did that? But then it's like, well, who made God? He can't have just always been existing. How does that make any sense? So no, I think ultimately there is no purpose for us being here. I think that we have just evolved from the fishes that came out of the sea, and yeah, and that actually brings me freedom, knowing that I only have a short time on earth and that I have no real purpose other than doing the things that bring me joy. How did my family take it? Well, my mum actually, kind of around the time that I decided I was atheist, she was a little bit less religious. She's a bit like, and now actually she's really not religious in the way that she was, so she just doesn't mind. We still celebrate Eid together as a family because of tradition, the same way, like, I celebrate Christmas. My mum's side of the family, I don't really see, we're not that close to lots of them, and the ones I do see aren't religious. My nana boy doesn't know, but there'd be no need to tell him because that would just break his heart. Do you feel like you lost years because of COVID? I'm turning 22 in a month and feel like life's passing by 100%. Like, I cannot believe that I am turning 24 in July. That feels like, whoa, that's mid-20s. Because when you're kind of 19, 20, 21, it's like, you don't need to know what you're doing with life. Like, you're young, you got time, you'll figure it out. And then, but now it's like, oh, I should have it all figured out. And yeah, obviously because of COVID, we lost like 2 years of real normal life, I suppose. So going into it, I was 22 and now I'm nearly 24. Very scary. How did you cope with COVID lockdown? I really liked lockdown. I think maybe because, like, I work from home anyway. I like that everyone else was at home, like, in my house. I thought it was quite a nice time, actually. Having troubles with being jealous, if so, how do you deal with those feelings? I never struggle with jealousy, and, like, Casper never gives me a reason to. If you are struggling with jealousy, like, at the end of the day, it's just about trust with your partner. Like, if it's because you just don't feel like you can trust them, then you're probably not in the right relationship. How did you find the atmosphere of Exeter with its private school reputation? Honestly, I did not know that Exeter was like that until I got there. Like, I went on an open day and I just thought it was a nice uni. Like, I love the campus and everything, because obviously the open day you don't really get a sense of, like, the kind of people that go there and what it's like because it's so busy. And, like, I went to state schools. Then when I got there I was like, oh, and there was, like, this thing where my halls was, we all went to state school, bar, like, a few. And, like, there were jokes about, like, the private school people, and like everyone would always ask like on a night out, oh, so what school did you go to? Obviously expecting you to reply with like some private school, because yeah, Exeter's, I think like 51% of students went to private school, so that's very high when you consider I think that only 7% of students in the whole country go to private school. Most of my best friends from Exeter went to private school, so it's not like I've got prejudices against them or anything. I met lovely people, so I don't think that's like something to stress about if you're like concerned about not going. Would your 10-year-old self believe what you have achieved today? No. Sometimes I think about this and I'm like, I can't believe that little old me gets to do all of the things that I get to do. I think even now, funny enough, like filming a YouTube video, I was about 13 when I started getting into YouTube, like watching YouTubers. I came home from a YouTube meetup and was so inspired that I filmed a video. I wonder if I could find that anywhere, and I didn't upload it because I was like too afraid. But now that like I'm doing it, it's just, I don't know, I think I'd be proud of myself. Yeah, I would be amazed. So I'm super grateful for everything in my life and all that I have achieved, because you gotta remember that. How did you get into modelling? What was it like? Why did you quit? So I always thought I was too short to be a model because I'm 5'3", and obviously everyone knows that models are tall. I saw this email from Misguided, actually, like a newsletter from Misguided, and it said, we are teaming up with Anti-Agency, so those are who the agency I signed to. You could win to be a model. They said that they don't care about height or weight, and I was like, ooh, okay, maybe I'll give it a go, and you just have to hashtag a photo. So I hashtagged this photo. I remember like asking one of my friends to go and comment over stuff underneath the photo, so it was like, so the hashtag was like drowned, because I didn't want anyone to think that I was like entering this competition to become a model. I remember actually I came out of my philosophy A-level exam, I came out of it and I had this message from the agency saying, hey, we would love to meet you. So I went and had a meeting with them, and they said, regardless of the Misguided competition, we want to sign you. And I was like, oh my god. And then I signed, and then later on I actually won the Misguided competition as well. So it was pretty amazing. What was it like? It was so cool. Like, I got to travel all over. Like, I never did Fashion Week or anything because I'm not tall enough to be an editorial or catwalk model. So I just did commercial, but commercial pays the best. There was not like a pressure on the way your body looks. Like I never had to do measurements. Well, I had measurements taken just so they would know my measurements, like my agency, but I was never told to lose weight or anything. It was all about, you know, you are what you look like. And anyway, yeah, it was great. Like, as a student while I was at uni, getting on a train to London and do these shoots, it felt so like glamorous. Like, I loved my life at uni. I thought it was so cool, and I got to meet so many cool people on the set and all the shoots. So I did it for 3 years part-time at uni, and then I did it for about just over a year full-time after I graduated. I hated that not knowing what my week was going to look like. So the way it works is, so today, right now, I could be working tomorrow and I wouldn't know. Like, you wait until about 8 PM for an email telling you whether or not you're working. So you can't make plans for the week because you might get an email being told you're working, you might be flying wherever. Like, even actually on the day, if you think you've got the day off, you get an email saying, actually, you've got a shoot that starts at 12, or you've got a casting wherever. So I didn't like that because I wanted to make all these plans, and I just didn't like not knowing what I was going to do for the week. And also, it got to a point where I didn't like being only paid for what I look like. Whereas like now I have complete control over everything that I do on Instagram and post. Whereas was modelling, you don't have control over it. I think it just put too much of a focus on what I looked like, and I just wasn't enjoying it anymore, and it just felt like it was time to say goodbye. What are your hobbies? What do you love doing? Love reading. That's probably one of my biggest hobbies. My mum was used to, on Wednesdays after school in primary school, she would take us to Borders, and we would fill our baskets with books and just spend hours reading them. Working out is one of my biggest hobbies. I love it. I just love moving my body, whether that's running, HIIT, Pilates, yoga. I feel like when people ask, like, what are your hobbies? Like, you're expected to say all these things, but beyond that, those are the 2 big ones. I've also started going for walks every morning, which I really like. I really like walking and listening to a podcast. How is your relationship with alcohol? Are you leaning towards not drinking anymore? Yes. When I got to high school and everyone was like drinking, actually when I got to sixth form, I started drinking, and it was like I discovered this amazing thing where I wasn't shy anymore, because I'm like I'm naturally an introvert, and I find it hard to talk to people in social situations, especially parties. So drinking was amazing, and like at uni as well, I loved that. Like, I would go out like every night, and I loved that I could drink and just have all this confidence, and it made me an extrovert, which I loved. I loved that whole kind of uni student thing, which I don't love anymore, but I can't hack it anymore. I also don't like the person I am when I'm drunk. Like, it was fine when I was a student, but now, like, what I hate is thinking that the next day, or that the people that I'd spoken to think that that's who I am, and it's just so far from actually who I am as a person. And I like having control over what I'm saying and the things I'm doing, because I hate that anxiety the next day of what I've said, or I hate feeling embarrassed. I also get such bad hangovers now. Like, I'm only 23, but I get the worst hangovers. It's just not worth it. Like, a few hours of fun is nowhere near worth the next day being ruined, because I love doing things with my day on a weekend. Like, I wanna go for a run or a walk. I don't want to spend my day just in bed having like 3 Deliveroos and just wanting the day to be over, because that's all I do. I just want the day to end. So I'm actually currently not drinking at the moment. I think we just have such an unhealthy relationship with alcohol as a society, but I'm not going to get into that. Do you think you'll ever use your English literature degree? No, I don't think I will. But I studied it because I liked it, so I don't regret doing it. Like, I really enjoyed studying it. What was the brand of the ring Casper got for you? Monica Vinader. I wear it every day. Do you want to have kids someday? If yes, how many? Oh my god, yes. I'm broody right now. I want to have a baby. I would like, in an ideal world, I would like 3. I really want 3, because I've got 3 sisters, but 2 of them are half sisters, and they were only born after I was an adult, and I've never lived with them. So it's not like I grew up with them. And I've got a sister that I grew up with, but I wish there was one more of us. I think it just would have been more fun. It'd be very hard to persuade Casper. Sometimes he says he only wants 1, but I don't want an only child. I would love 3. I would want 4 actually, although I don't know how my body's gonna hack it. I think I would like to have an elective cesarean, but then I don't think I really knew what an elective cesarean entailed until I watched This Is Going to Hurt, and I saw the way that they just hold open a woman's like body and like pull this baby out. I was like, oh my god, I don't want to do that. I want a natural birth, but I've got such narrow hips. I'm like straight down. My hips never widened at puberty, so that like if my hips don't widen when I'm pregnant, then I'm gonna just rip wide open. So I think you and Casper would move to South Africa in the future. I would love to. Like, seeing the way that Casper grew up, like compared to the way I grew up, like going to Westfield or going to the cinema on the weekend, compared to like Casper going wakeboarding and doing all this and like surfing. I want my kids to definitely have that kind of upbringing and being outdoorsy. Do you feel whitewashed? See, a lot of people ask me that. It's like, I'm not whitewashed. I am half white, and I had a more English upbringing. Oh yeah, I went to Bangladesh once and I can't remember it. So, do you find your work fulfilling enough? Do you ever find the influencing sphere shallow? Because I do Bambi, I don't feel that way. I like to think that I talk enough about more meaningful things on my personal Instagram that it doesn't feel shallow. What's your prime motivator in life? What keeps you going? Honestly, like I said earlier, it's just finding the things that make me happy and just doing them, and seeing the people I love, and one day having just like, I just envision myself, me and Casper, having like lots of babies and in a nice house and swimming a lot in the sea and surfing and going on long walks and hikes and reading a lot and cooking good home food somewhere hot and coming back to England sometimes. Yeah, that's the kind of life I want for myself. It makes me excited. Oh, that's really so happy thinking about it. But I'm living like my dream life now. I think I love my life. Like, I feel so blessed, really, in my relationship with my friends, the house, my job. I love my life. I think I've figured out the things that make me happy, and I love it. And I'm very lucky. Let's talk about starting Bambi Collective, how and what inspired you. Okay, so I used to do this workout program called Keep It Cleaner, and one thing I loved about it was the Facebook group. Like, it was so supportive, and you could just go on there and post about anything, and everyone was so friendly. And I just thought, like, it'd be nice to just have this community for girls, but it wasn't to do with any particular thing. Like, no, you didn't get it because you're paying for something alongside it. And that was kind of how it started. I just wanted to create a positive space online that you didn't have to pay for, and any girl could join regardless of where you live or whatever. And then the rest of it just kind of grew from there, and yeah, I love it. So what are your love languages? Definitely physical touch is mine, like to the point where like I just love like touching Casper and like little kisses, but he's like, because his is not physical touch, his is His is acts of service, which is really, it just means me doing the chores. No, it doesn't mean that, but he like loves it when I cook for him and various things. Like he loves acts of service. We both know each other's love languages, so he's accepted that mine is physical touch. So useful knowing that stuff, I think. At what age do you want to have kids when you were younger versus now? When I was younger, I envisioned myself being like engaged at like 22 and having kids by like 25, whereas now that I'm like nearly 24, I'm like, whoa, maybe not. But now I envision myself, I want at least one before I'm 30. Okay, I feel like I've covered quite a lot now, so I'm gonna end it on this one. Favourite comfort movie, such movies you like to watch when you're feeling under the weather. The Twilight is my comfort movie. All of the movies, I don't know why, I just love them. You know, something about it, the music, the reliability, the story, everything. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna leave it there. I hope you feel like maybe you know me more after that, and if you have any other questions, I don't know, I'll do another one in a couple months' time or something. Thanks for sending in all your questions, guys. Bye.